But let me start off by saying good morning to everybody and welcoming Honourable Professor Kabudi, Minister of Foreign Affairs, to this event as our chief guest. Honourable Dr. Vincent Biruta, also Chair of the East African Council of Ministers and Minister of Foreign Affairs, all Cabinet Secretaries present, representatives of the Secretary General, who unfortunately could not be with us this morning, our good friend Honourable Martin Ngoga, Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, all senior government officials, ambassadors, high commissioners, members of the business community, and all distinguished guests this morning. And then we always say all protocols observed, having already said all the protocols, but I'll just say that. But on behalf of the East African Business Council Board of Directors who are sitting here with us this morning, and on my own behalf, I welcome you all to this high-level business summit, which is themed East African Community at 20, private sector-driven, regional integration for increased intra-EAC trade and investments and beyond. I'm humbled by your participation, and I wish to thank the Chair of the East African Council of Ministers, Honourable Dr. Biruta, for joining us despite your busy schedule. Your participation is another testimony on how public sector in East Africa values the role of private sector in the East African integration process. And indeed, in the meeting we had this morning, before we started, we had a long discussion about the role of private sector, and in conjunction with his president, President Kagame, Honourable Biruta invited private sector to play a very active role in these discussions that happen at a high-level summit. So in the last 20 years, we've come a long way, and in the last year, private sector has been invited to be a guest at the table, in fact, a participant at the table, for which we say thank you, thank you, thank you. And in a special way, let me also thank the two presidents who have seen the East African Business Council Board, President Kagame and President Museveni, and really appreciate their contribution and their understanding about the value of private sector. But in this case today, it was very clear for both of those presidents that each of our countries is but a small economic island. That is not more than perhaps a dot on the global economic scale. But it is only through coming together as a region, through regionalization, that we can actually become a strong economic powerhouse. So what we'll talk about today in this brief speech, my brief speech, is what have we accomplished over the last 20 years? What are some of the things that have to be done? And then talk about what we're going to do over these next 2 days. And as I invite us all to participate over these next 2 days, may I also just make a request that let's have hard talk conversations. Let's have frank conversations. Let's not sort of soft pedal around, because there's nobody else in East Africa that's in this room to talk about the future of business in East Africa besides us. There's not another gathering. So if not us, then who? So all those people who cannot fit in this room today, or have not come, are counting on us over the next 2 days to do some hard work. Can we do some hard work? And let's challenge everything. Challenge everything and challenge everyone, respectfully, of course. So we're very encouraged by the political will. That gives us the energy, the motivation to move forward, to know that we're on the right track. We mentioned the non-tariff barriers that have dropped dramatically. There are a few very sticky ones that are left. In our conversation this morning, we talked about the 17, 20, 22 of them, and what do we have to do to get them down? Why are they not getting torn down? But we're going to work on those. We're going to work on those over these next 2 days, and we're going to work on those between now and the Presidential Heads of State Summit in February. So we've got 3 months to make significant progress on those. So our role in this integration as private sector is really to raise the issues, and SMEs, micro SMEs, women-owned businesses, micro businesses, youth businesses, this is the forum. See, the value of integration is really from supply and demand. From a supply side, anyone doing business or investing in East Africa has a large pool of resources, whether they are below the ground or walking on two legs above the ground. And if you could tap into that pool by allowing free movement of people, free movement of labor, free movement of services, you in particular as an SME can really grow your skill set and drive higher productivity. And on the demand side, with 200 million people as your potential market, if we can make, through these discussions today, the barriers at Namanga and Busia and all of these borders come down and move from a one-stop border crossing to a no-stop border crossing using technology, it now makes it so much easier to do business. It makes it easier for somebody selling vegetables on the border to cross and sell them. It makes it easier for someone manufacturing a Volkswagen somewhere in one of our countries to ship that car across the border, especially if that car has components from another country. So we have done a lot of work over the last 20 years. We've attained a common external tariff. There's still further discussions on what that level should be. 30, 35%. Should there be 3 tiers? Should there be 4 tiers? And there are very powerful arguments on both sides. We've rolled out a single customs territory. We've introduced an electronic cargo tracking system. The one-stop border posts, soon to be zero-stop border posts. We've operationalized a simplified trade regime for goods that are worth less than a few $1,000s. We've also rolled out no visa restrictions for East African community citizens, preferential market access for EAC originating goods, single tourist visas for Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, e-passport for the partner states, national ID to travel between Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, and a lot has been achieved in the last 20 years. When we speak to our colleagues and friends in the European Union, they tell us, take heart. It took Europe 50 to 60 years to get to where it got to, and still there's a small island pushing for something called Brexit. So it's tough. So if we think it's hard, it's just human nature. People really face this dichotomy between nationalism and regionalism. There's a fear-based element. What if the big guys come rumbling into our country? What's it going to mean for us? But on the other hand, what if the big guys come into your country and hire many of your young people? What if they bring their products into your company, into your country, and hire many of your people as their distributors? So let's not have this fear of one country versus another country, because there are so many opportunities for everybody. And if anybody takes a plane and flies anywhere across East Africa, you can fly for miles and miles and miles without seeing a factory, without seeing farms, without seeing anything. So there's enough opportunity for all of us, and the rest of the world is waiting for East African community businesses to sell our products and our people into their markets. So as we celebrate these key milestones in our integration process, we still have these trade obstacles. We're still grappling with them. We mentioned the 12% trade and it's dropped. We're going to address those issues. We're also going to welcome new countries into the market. For example, Democratic Republic of Congo. We're talking to them in an expectation that we have as the Business Council that they will be welcomed into the market, a massive market for us in East Africa. However, we will say to our colleagues who are going to be in these conversations, we have to ensure that anybody that joins this market is willing to respect and adhere to the common external tariff, respect and adhere to the common standards, and we have to make sure that we are upholding the values and the hard work that we have done. And anybody who joins, like joining in any other part of the world, that you must join and agree to participate at the level that we are striving for ourselves. We have huge bodies of water that we have not exploited. In Kisumu, we're building a large port. Unfortunately now, there's nowhere for the big ships to go to on the rest of the lake. They might be tourist ships, but for cargo, wouldn't it be easier to go and drop your cargo along the shore? So that's a challenge to the rest of East African countries along the lake, to build your ports and allow goods to travel. We need a local content policy that we can all abide by. We're going to talk about that. What is local? Let local be East Africa. Let's be clear. Let's be clear that cement can come from one country into another and it still be considered local. Our challenge and our fight should not be with each other. Our challenge and our fight should be from those other countries that we are funding with our dollars. If we are a trading nation, we are a nation that is paying workers in other countries to build goods for us to slip into our borders. Let's encourage and do everything we can for those people who might be making the products in another country to come here and make them here. After all, we have 200 million people that perhaps want to buy them or want to make them. And we must make it easier for us to fly. As my good friend Dennis Guerrero always says, $800 to fly from Kigali to Nairobi. Why? You can fly from London to Amsterdam for 70 euros or 50 euros. Same kind of plane, same kind of fuel. What are we doing? What are we doing? Why does it cost so much on Safaricom or MTN to roam from one country to another? Even people who have large expense accounts say, can you call me on that number? Can I call you on WhatsApp? It's so expensive. Come on. And standards. We don't have to have one standard, but let's respect each other's standards. If the Rwanda Bureau of Standards says that this product meets their criteria, say we respect it. Let it come into Tanzania, let it come into Kenya. Let's not have to mess with them, put them at the border, charge tariffs, take it for inspection. Let's respect each other. We all went to the same schools, we all like the same football teams, and we're all the same people. We make it so complicated. So as I try to wrap here with my next 7 to 10 pages of my speech, I'm joking. I think one big opportunity for us is the Africa Free Trade, that one, AFCFTA. And the economists say that we could boost intra-African trade by 53%. But we as East Africa are widely recognized as one of the most progressive trading blocs in Africa. But let's not do the thing we normally do, which is say, we got an award, we're the best, and we sit on our laurels. Because guess what? Egypt, ECOWAS, all these other areas can see the same free trade agreement and they're getting together and sharpening their knives. So let's get going as East Africa and go into this AFCFTA as East Africa and hit it hard and do really well for all of our people. So I'd like to thank you all for coming to the summit. As I said, I hope the discussions are rich. And I hope that we are able to define our East African agenda for the world as opposed to having the world define the East African agenda for them. Let's tell the world how we want to do business and let's go out and make it happen. So for all of us who have East Africa in our hearts, I welcome you all and I wish you all a very productive 2 days. Thank you very much.